January 17th, 2024. Live streaming from a distant galaxy. This is the world's most controversial podcast, the Doomsy McDoomscroller Show, a philosophical science fiction series featuring realistic futurology and refreshingly heretical commentary on the news. And today I scrolled not a lot of the newswire, but this caught my eye. How could it not? The headline reads, and this is off the Yahoo News portal. The story is from CNN. Headline reads, "What is new denial?" Quote unquote. An alarming wave of climate misinformation is spreading on YouTube, Watchdog says. This is by Rachel Ramirez, CNN. Wednesday, January 17, 2024, 6:10 p.m. So, new denial. What is new denial? Okay, Doomsy's first going to explain old denial, and then we'll talk about this new denial. Well, maybe let's get into here a little bit first, into this article, and then discuss old denial. If you've been on YouTube lately, you might have come across someone claiming wind and solar energy don't work, that rising sea levels will help coral reefs flourish, and that climate scientists are corrupt and alarmist. These are all false and misleading statements taken from a handful of thousands of YouTube videos analyzed by the nonprofit Center for Countering Digital Hate, the CCDH, which has identified a stark change in the tactics of climate deniers over the past few years. Where once, article goes on to say, where once climate deniers would outright reject climate change as a hoax or scam, or claim that humans were not responsible for it, many are now shifting to a different approach, one which attempts to undermine climate science, cast doubt on climate solutions, and even claim global warming will be beneficial at best, harmless at worst. All right. Now, the source for old denial and new denial, pretty much the same. It's religion. Yeah, religion. Doomsy, you can't say that, Doomsy. I'm an atheist, and I know that climate change is a hoax. Right? That's what some of you may think. But no, that's religion. That's religion. Doomsy did not consider himself religious or living on Earth. While on Earth, when I was there, when I was living on the planet from which I was born, most of those years, atheist, yet I performed religious rituals every day. Every day. I did something religious every day. And that is, well, just about every day, that is go into a grocery store. That is a religious activity, because it was a religious revolution that got so many people to become convinced that the planet was made for them to conquer, that they started owning all the land. Of course, in their minds, they think they own the land. I think they own pieces of earth. And not just that, but lock up all the food. So warehouses, silos, warehouses, whatever you store food in for the past 10,000, 12,000 years. The surpluses of food, right? You always have surpluses. You're always increasing the amount of food surpluses. And you lock them up in a warehouse. And you think it's just life. This is just what humans do. This is how an advanced civilization conducts themselves, right? Constantly working to increase the production of food surpluses, locking up all the food, forcing people to work in order for them to get the food out from under lock and key. The food that they actually worked to produce and then lock up, they work to. That's your religious ritual for 8 billion of you. That's religion that does that. And in a similar way, religion is what supports climate denial, climate change denial. Okay, let's talk about old denial. All right, old denial is just straight up saying it's not happening. It's not happening. Of course, even an atheist could say that. Climate change is a hoax. Right? But just because they don't, worship some vengeful storm god character in the sky, just because they're not, subscriber to those penis book religions, doesn't mean they're not religious. Doesn't mean their worldview doesn't have a religious foundation. The religious beliefs of civilized culture go back thousands of years before the texts and the doctrines and the dogma of your culture's most famous, most popular religions. It goes way back before that. You have to realize that your cultures, and of course, let me reiterate, as Doomsy should, in case this is the first time you're listening, when I say your culture, I mean the culture of civilized people. Civilized with a capital C. Civilization with a capital C. Your culture. All 8 billion. East and West, there's no difference. Doesn't matter what ism you use for your economy. Y'all live in the same social hierarchies. Y'all gotta work to get food. Y'all wage war versus the planet. All the same. And so Doomsy's saying that your culture's religion goes back way before the popular religions. It goes back before the doctrines, the books, all those books. You know the books I'm talking about. The books idolized by billions. The books idolized by people who read in those books that idolatry is bad. Those books. The religious beliefs of your culture were around thousands of years before that. Those religions kind of came about as a way to explain why your culture makes life suck so badly. So that's why you have these whacked explanations for the world. But those explanations, they're based on something, especially if you're looking at like Abrahamic religions. You know, those religions named after that fine, upstanding man, Abraham, who, he attempted to murder his family and then was rewarded for it. That guy. That's your holier than thou textual basis argument for your moral superiority. Abrahamic religions. So, long before those came about was this belief that your culture definitely exhibits. It is clear that your culture is hell-bent on conquering the planet. And you think you even have orders to do this. Divine orders. Now, let me make this clear. A few things clear, actually. Like, one, there's no such thing as race among human beings. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a divine message. Never has been, never will be. And as a corollary to that, there's no such thing as divine messenger. Never will be. Oh, also, let me add this, kick this in there. Nobody is ever a vessel. Ever. The actual creator of every human life is a woman. Okay. Now we got those main points out of the way. Let's talk about your religious basis and get back to talking about old denialism. I guess we'll call it now. Okay, that's religion. An atheist denialist. Okay, let's talk about the atheist denialist. Okay, so atheist denialist does not worship a man god. Doesn't doesn't go to any kind of church or anything, but knows, right, believes strongly climate change is a hoax. Right? Here's the religious basis for that denialism, for that belief. Civilized culture. The tenets of civilized culture. The fundamentals of civilized culture. The foundational beliefs of civilized culture contain the civilized prime directive. I know it kind of sounds like Star Trek, the non-interference. It's the opposite of the Star Trek prime directive. The exact opposite. It is conquer, conquer, conquer. Planet is ours. We're the superior life form in every way. We're pretty much the purpose for the whole universe existing, and we are to rule over this world, this planet, according to civilized culture. So they may not cite an angry personality, the atheist, old denialist might not cite storm god or some child rapist. From Mecca or wherever. Might not have a hero like that. But yet, it's religion that denies that. Because it's the most powerful myth in all of civilization. And you begin to question that. I think for these denialists, I think it's a real thread that there's a fear there that you pull on that and the whole worldview collapses. I think they feel that. I think that's why they're so resistant to accepting the facts of climate change. Other people, let's talk about people who don't deny climate change. There's an interesting denial in their non-denial. Let me point that out here. Let's get to here on the article because I read it. Here it says, here it is right here. I already read it. Where once climate deniers would outright reject climate change as a hoax or scam, or claim that humans were not responsible for it, many are now shifting to a different approach. Okay, humans not responsible for it. Okay, how long you've been listening to the Doomsy McDoomscroller show? Or perhaps maybe you are someone who kind of taught Doomsy. There's a million people prior to my knowledge, prior to Doomsy's amazing powers of observation. A million other people had those powers of observation. I'll tell you, this right here, humans responsible for climate change, that's wrong. Well, it's inaccurate. It's detrimentally inaccurate, meaning it's so inaccurate, it's misleading to the point where catastrophe. It's look, humans were around for 300,000 years. Humans been on Earth for 300,000 years. no climate change. Your culture comes along 10,000 years ago, and in the scale of geologic time, overnight, now you got a planet with a fever. Now you're on a planet with a fever, pretty much right after your culture starts up. Right as you start, right as some group, some megalomaniacal people in the Fertile Crescent, soon after they started spreading genocide and slavery across the globe, fever. So your species is not to blame. I mean, it sounds like Doomsy's denying something, but he's not. Your culture is to blame, and it's important to make that distinction. It's the reason why you have old denial. Because you have to start to question your culture. At least a little bit. I think for the people who are into the old denial, I think they would have to question a lot. I think they feel that breaking point. Because your culture compels 8 billion of you to act as punished planet conquerors. You're there to rule over the planet. There were people in the Fertile Crescent a long time ago who, as they were getting mass murdered by your culture's ancestors, by the ancestors in your culture, I should say, they were getting massacred by the first civilized folk, right? Because that's your culture's MO as it spread across Earth over the course of millennia. It brought genocide and slavery everywhere it went. And you started doing that because you believe that that's how you conquer, and you gotta conquer, right? If it wasn't Yahweh that told you to subdue the earth and have dominion over it, name all the creatures, fruitfully multiply. If it wasn't Yahweh or Allah or Jesus or Yeshua or Jesus or some character, if it wasn't that, then at least it was the universe. It was the universe itself, Mr. or Ms. Atheist, right? The universe means for you to conquer. You're of the species that split the atom, right? And you got these smartphones now. Had electricity. Whatever it is. I go back 5,000 years. It doesn't matter. Go back 5,000 years, and those people see themselves as, civilized people. They see themselves as being like gods, being at the pinnacle of technology, everything that Everything useful that could be made has been made, pretty much. No matter what time you're in, through the course of civilized culture's history, that's what you got. You're the superior life form. It's your planet, according to your culture's mythology. You are of the species. You are the conquer. Okay, maybe you think there's aliens too, like extraterrestrial life. And other world or other planetary civilizations. Those species were meant to conquer, right? They're the most advanced. And they should do what y'all are doing, right? Which is consider every single thing on the planet a resource for your exploitation. So you don't need Yahweh for that. You don't need the three penises, the Trinity, right? Father, Son, and the male. It's an adult male, the Holy Ghost. Doesn't matter, you talk to Catholic or Protestant. It's not an it. Holy Ghost is a person, and that person has a penis. Trinity is 3 penises, 6 testicles, right? No ovaries, no vaginas, no vulvas. The entire universe came about as a result of just a sausage party, I guess. But you don't need that. You don't need that to have religion as your basis for denying the reality of climate change. You don't. Because it goes back much farther than that. I mean, those religions, geez, what? I don't know, they're like the middle of the onion, middle layer. We're talking the core of civilized culture is this belief that the world was made for you, y'all. The world was made for you, and you were made to rule and conquer over it. Or if not you specifically to rule and conquer over it, you are to build pyramids for the neo-pharaohs of your species that will rule and conquer over it. Now, that's as solid as it gets. That's the most rock solid, most consistent belief that holds all of you together in your culture. Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Jew, Hindu. That's your basis of everything. The world was made for you. You were made to conquer and rule over it. That's the human destiny, right? In fact, some of you think it goes beyond that. Because not just Earth made for you, the whole frickin' universe. The whole purpose of the universe is for you, y'all, right? So next it's Mars, and then it's another star system, faster than light travel, right? It's just all made for you guys, for just civilized people. You think for human beings because you equate your culture with the whole species. But yeah, you believe it's all about you. And so to accept that climate change is happening, that's a crack in the ice. Appears under your feet. You slip out of your depth and out of your mind, and the fear flows out behind you as you crawl through the thin ice. That puts a crack in the ice. You don't want to accept that. That's a slippery slope that the old denial mind does not want to start slipping down. Because if climate change is actually happening, right? If doing what you're supposed to do, which is conquer, by that, right? Conquer means everything is a resource for your exploitation. F the penguins. F the lions. Who cares about coral? Plankton. It's not on our menu. That's what you think, right? We don't care about that stuff. You're humans. You think yourself apart from the world and that it's there and conquerable and that you're supposed to do it according to the universe. Okay, if it's not a religious character, psychotic, child abusing religious character, it's the universe itself, right? It's the laws of physics. You're like gods. Maybe you don't worship a god, but you're a member of a species that pretty much is godlike, right? Like Larry David would say, pretty godlike. That's how you fancy yourselves. That's how you think of yourselves. And so if climate change, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and that is setting the world on fire, if it's leading to all these terrible things, then maybe you've got it wrong. Maybe you aren't supposed to be planet conquerors. Maybe you shouldn't be waging a war versus Earth continually. That is the ultimate doubt, the ultimate slippery slope for questioning a worldview. And the old denialist does not want to go down that road. Just will not take one step. That's just way too slippery. Not going to do it. Now, amazingly, there's people who don't deny climate change, but yet they are in denial about what can be done about it. Some people, a lot of people, they're trying to, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Square the circle? No? I don't know. They're trying to have it both ways. right? That you're just the planet conquering, you're going about it wrong. And this damage, this climate change, is just evidence that you aren't doing it right. Yeah, you should rule over the world. You're the superior species. Everything exists as a resource for you. But you need to use those resources wisely, right? But you're still a step closer to accepting the truth. The truth? Oh, what's that? The truth? Oh, the truth that civilized culture is to blame for all excessive suffering on planet Earth. All excessive suffering. And look, that's good news. I mean, that's really good news. Because you can change cultures. You can leave a culture behind and get into a new one. So it's great news that culture is to blame. Because there's no, I mean, if your species is to blame, how are you gonna deal with that? You can't just rewrite the DNA of 8 billion, soon to be 9 billion people. That's not going to happen. It'd be ridiculous to try to even think about. Like, you got 300,000 years of no problemo, and then civilized culture comes along, and now you're bringing these ecosystems to their knees. But look, here's the thing. Here's the thing about new denial. Right? We're talking about Egyptian crocodiles, right? Now, it might seem on the surface like Doomsy agrees with some of these Egyptian crocodiles. But I don't. I don't. The millions before me who have the new worldview, who are aware of the cultural mythology of civilization and what it's doing, how it holds people captive, the millions of people prior to me seeing the bars of the cage, those people, they also would say, yeah, the solutions you're coming up with, not gonna work. It's such stupid wishful thinking. How can you think any of these little programs, this little hocus pocus maneuver you got with what carbon cap and trade, let's pay money to pollute, or it's just ridiculous to think that any of that is going to work. Look at this. Here's a related headline here. An article, another one from CNN I found on Yahoo News. This is dated today, Wednesday, January 17th. UK government approves controversial $2.5 billion project for carbon negative power plant. Carbon negative power plant? Okay, get this. This is really something. Carbon negative wood burning power plant. Burns wood. It burns wood. And they're calling it carbon negative. The arrogance, the wishful thinking, the fooling yourself that's happening is at such a high level. It's just unbelievable to me and to a million other people on Earth right now. There's a million others that don't hear. Well, they're not listening to Doomsy. But if they were to hear my words, they would not find my comments as blasphemous. They would say, yeah, obviously. Whereas, look, these people got to be oblivious to something. Carbon negative wood burning power plant? Okay, the article goes on to say, but some climate experts say it's a costly experiment for technology that may not be green. Energy Secretary Claire Coutinhos? I should just skip over names, right? Does it even matter? The Energy Secretary's decision greenlights a plan to bolt carbon capture units onto 2 generators at a power station in Yorkshire, Northern England, run by Drax. What the hell? Drax? I think that's like Drax the Destroyer, right? That guy in Guardians of the Galaxy? No, anyway, well, they got Drax. Once operational, the article goes on to say, each would be capable of preventing 4 million tons of carbon pollution a year from entering the atmosphere. Comma, according to the company. Right, according to the company. Now, Doomsy's definitely saying we shouldn't trust the company. But Doomsy's also saying that it's not just the company that's going to be responsible for all this wood burning. It's you. You. The pyramid builders. Building pyramids for the Neo-Pharaohs. Neo-Pharaohs aren't building the pyramids. They're not doing all that work. They're not doing any work. Why are you putting all the blame on them when they aren't doing any work? They're not dragging any stones. You want to blame them. Back to the article. The carbon would then be stored under the North Sea with the aim of preventing it from adding to global warming. Once the most polluting power station in Western Europe, Drax switched from burning coal to burning biomass, mostly wood pellets, in 2019. The power station in Yorkshire, which produces around 4% of the UK's power, mostly burns wood imported from North America. Oh, so green. So green. Give me a break. What a... It's insane. Freaking insane. Your culture is some kind of insanity. And you're all caught up in it. And you try not to think about it because it's like a stampede and you just have to keep running. It's like easier to run. You know you can't stop. There's no stopping. You stop in a stampede, you get trampled to death. But you can't just stop going to work. You can't stop turning on that key that spews poison out of the tailpipe. You can't stop getting on the train or the rail or the bus or the electric bus. That has a carbon footprint. You might not have stuff coming out of the tailpipe. How much plastic is in that thing? I mean, what? I think average vehicle, there's like a couple dozen barrels of oil in the production of the vehicle. That's no matter what you're going to put in the fuel tank. Oh, here we go. Isn't this lovely here? Back to the article. Biomass is already considered carbon neutral because even though carbon pollution is released when trees are burned, the idea is emissions are offset by the growth of new trees to replace those burned, which suck up carbon through photosynthesis as they grow. Oh, the growth of new trees. Isn't that nice? Growth of new trees. You're not growing all that many new trees. Okay, for one, a tree farm is not the same thing as an old forest, or even a forest, a natural forest. Nature doesn't plant trees in the ground in rows and columns trying to get maximum density of timber. Earth doesn't do that. Y'all do that because it's a resource, right? Oh, it's renewable. So you've got 30%, about 30% of forests on Earth are now gone because of civilized culture. And that trend is continuing. So around mid-century, if you extrapolate the data and forecast, it'll be around mid-century when you hit that 50% mark. You're at 30% now. 35%, 33%, about a third. About a third of Earth's forests are gone. Right now, gone. And because as long as your culture continues, that trend is going to continue. Because deforestation is what you do. It's one of the most defining single characteristics of civilized culture is deforestation. So you're going to get to 50%. So what are they talking about? The growth of new trees to replace those burned. What the What the? You have this paper by physicists. The experts of mass and energy and how much stuff there is and how it changes through time according to what's there and the rates of change. Physicists, the profession that put people on the moon before such thing as smartphones. Before there was an app for putting people on the moon, they put people on the moon. Physicists have said they looked at deforestation and published in a peer-reviewed, well, I'll just say Nature, not a peer-reviewed. It was peer-reviewed, published in Nature, the most prestigious scientific journal like ever. And the conclusions for deforestation is going to cause a complete collapse of the economy, of like every economy, in 2 to 4 decades. Well, 90% chance. I think they gave you a 10% there because, maybe it'll happen in 5 decades, but also because they got this, utopian dream, maybe that deforestation will stop. But it won't. It won't stop unless civilized culture is abandoned. New trees to replace those burned. Okay, what about the trees that aren't burned? What about the trees that are used to wipe a-holes and get flushed down the toilet? Or the trees that just get cranked out of Hewlett-Packards and all these other printing machines, right? It wasn't that a joke, right? The computer age, paperless society. If anything, there's more paper. Every one of these computers has got a printer hooked up to it. So even if this was true, the offset by the growth of new trees to replace those burned, what are they even talking about? It's just biomass is already considered carbon neutral. Okay. Burning biomass. So you're either just burning biomass for electricity, or you're converting the biomass into human flesh. Right? That's the thing you do more than anything else. Convert the biomass of planet Earth, the general biomass, and convert it into one very specific type of biomass, that being human flesh. That's what y'all are doing. As fast as you possibly can. And your population goes from 2 billion to 4 billion to 8 billion. 50 years. 2 billion to 4 billion in 50 years. 4 billion to 8 billion in another 50 years. You're doing it as fast as you possibly can, converting the biomass of planet Earth into human flesh. How's that working out for you? Is anyone talking about that? On the news, anyways? There's a million people. There's at least 1 million people on Earth right now, and you can get into a conversation with them about this, and they'll be, yeah, we need to stop increasing food production. But a lot of them, they generally don't want to speak out about that because people have such a disconnect with reality. They think that if you stop increasing food production, there's going to be riots. It's ridiculous. In 2023, globally, y'all produced enough food for 8 billion people. We know that. We know that because there are 8 billion people on Earth at the end of 2023. 8 billion people. And people are made of... Come on, you can do it. Doomsday will give you a little more time. What are people made of? Come on. It's not a trick question. Food. People are made of food. So however much food you produced globally in 2023, it was enough food for 8 billion people. And we know that because there were 8 billion people at the end of 2023. That's how many people? 8 billion people. You're making enough food for 8 billion people because we know that because 8 billion people exist on planet Earth right now. So just try this. 2024, make the same amount of food, produce the same amount of food on a global scale, we're talking. Because, your culture used genocide and slavery to spread itself to all 4 corners of the globe. So we're talking global scale. So on a global scale, 2024, produce the same amount of food that you did in 2023. And then in 2025, produce the same amount of food you made in 2023. 2026, yeah, you get where I'm going with this. Same amount of food. If you do that, you'll have the same population. If you keep doing that year after year, in the year 2050, you'll have the same population that you did in 2023, 2024, at the beginning of 2024. 8 billion people. 8 billion people, give or take, right? But population would level out without any food riots. What, you think mass starvation? You got mass starvation now. Chronic famine now. The excess food production, that's what causes chronic famine, you know. You're the cause of chronic famine. You're doing it. It's not something that's happening to people by way of what, earthly circumstances, environmental conditions. Chronic famine is caused by y'all. It's you thinking that the biomass of the earth is just yours to do whatever you please with it. And here we got with new denial. New denial content attacks on solutions. The science and the climate movement now makes up 70% of all climate denial claims posted on YouTube, according to the report, up from 35% in 2018. Assertions that global warming is not happening, one of the main old denial claims the analysis focused on, declined from 48% of all denial claims in 2018 to 14% in 2023, the report found. Claims that climate solutions won't work, however, soared from 9% to 30% over the same period. All right, okay, let's have Doomsday add to that. And we're just talking climate solutions here, and not really any particular technology. Here's what won't work. Climate solutions. Any climate solution that y'all come up with that is supposed to function within the mechanisms of civilized culture is doomed. Doomed. Because your solutions, it's like this. Let's say you have a solution. What's a good analogy? Oh, it's like this. Like, you have a solution. It's like, okay, here's a solution to prevent bullets, to prevent doctors from finding bullets inside of people. Okay, and that solution is to educate people to not pull triggers. And you're going to educate these people. These particular people, they happen to be soldiers in the middle of a war. So, what's the success of that solution? How well do you think that's going to fare? Hey, we have a solution for people not getting shot. Let's not pull triggers. Okay, now go tell every soldier on that battlefield. What good is the solution? You're still at war. You're still at war. Civilized culture is a war versus Earth. It's the culture of maximum conflict. It's the culture of maximum violence. The culture of maximum misogyny and child abuse. That's your culture. And I know it's the C word. Civilized. It's the ultimate achievement of any organism in the universe, right? And you humans did it, right? It's what humans were meant to be, civilized. Let's be civilized about this. Pip pip cheerio. Tea time, old chap. I don't know why I did the British accent thing. It has nothing to do. Really, your culture has nothing to do with being neighborly and friendly. What, you think people weren't neighborly and friendly prior to civilized culture? That's preposterous. Very recently, there were a couple of huge continents covered with people, mostly, the vast majority of which, not building pyramids, not farming. Really, I mean, they didn't have the problems that y'all are facing. So, that's, that's what you guys get. Look at this. Look at this guy. This headline here. Putin claims that if it wouldn't have been for Ukraine, war would have ended long ago. Can you believe that? I guess this is from yesterday, Tuesday. Putin claims that if it wouldn't have been for Ukraine, war would have ended long ago. That's your culture. This shit is going on because of y'all. You gotta have pharaohs. This Putin guy, he's a product of civilized culture. Tyrannical king, right? He's a tyrannical king. There's only one way that people end up suffering under a tyrannical king, and that is to first have kings. That's the only way you could possibly end up with just the ultra worst maximum suffering. Everywhere you go on Earth, where you're among civilized people, there is excessive suffering happening. For the humans, as well as all the other animals, the non-human animals. Excessive suffering everywhere. You want maximum suffering? Oh, get a tyrannical king. How do you get tyrannical kings? Oh, you have kings. That's what you got first. You first have kings. And pretty much everyone's a tyrant, right? Once they get to that level. I mean, you think, oh, Queen Elizabeth. There were a bunch of people thought that woman was a tyrant. It had legitimate reasons. So that's what you got going on. The new denialism. So, but here's the difference. Here's before I end, let me make it clear. Old denial and new denial both are religious based. The new denial is, oh, the solutions won't work, it's stupid, okay, global warming is happening, but it's going to be a benefit, really, if anything. Okay, that's religion. that's taken the delusion of grandeur ball and running with it. And of course, the conquering is going to continue. We should just keep on doing what we can to subdue the earth and have dominion. That's the dominant culture's thinking. But question that. And look, once you realize that there is life for humans beyond civilized culture, once you realize that there's culture beyond civilized culture, just as there was culture prior to civilized culture, before the warmongering, pyramid building, pharaoh fostering culture that you're all held captive in now, there was 300,000 years of fashion, dinner parties, sustainable lifestyles, nobody ever fearing losing a job. That's the good news. And to think that didn't happen, that's the worst denialism. So Doomsday, I guess Doomsday's not in denial, but I'll tell you, those solutions are not going to work. Electric vehicles, not your solution. Technology is not going to dig you out of this hole. No effing way, man. No effing way. How is technology supposed to help? All your tech is basically purposed to continue the planet conquering. So it'll just give you more tech. Whoa. So, you can say it's green. Oh, biomass is green. It's carbon neutral. Let's keep burning trees as we chop them down for everything else. What do we need this forest for? This forest with 1 million different things living in it. It should all just be one plant. Let's make it all rice or soybeans or wheat or whatever it is. Yeah, give technology to people doing that? What do you think? Oh, now we have technology. Let's stop our warmongering ways. When has it ever worked? When has that ever worked? 10,000 years. Haven't you had technology advancing through most of that time? Technological improvements have been happening for millennia. Did it once even slow down the spread of genocide and slavery that is your culture's calling card? Did advancing technology, did technological developments ever once just even slow it down a little? Did it hinder the conquering? Or did it speed it up? Did it make things worse? Yeah, but Doomsday, now we have this awareness about the climate. So you have this awareness, and what, you can make yourself feel good about with these carbon cap and trade and let me pay to pollute and filth and yeah, keep fooling yourself. Look, climate change is happening. It is a problem. And there is a solution. But any solution that doesn't also involve the abandonment of civilized culture is futile. Because that's the real problem. And you don't need to continue it. You really don't. You don't need pharaohs. You don't need neo-pharaohs. You don't need Bidens. You don't need Trumps. You don't need Obamas. You don't need Putins. You don't need Musks. You don't need Bezoses. You don't need Soroses. You don't need what? Tank Shark? What was that? Shark Tank? Or you don't need Cubans. You don't need millionaires. You don't need mid-level neo-pharaohs. You don't need socio-economic hierarchies. You don't need them. That's not how human beings evolved. Human beings became human beings by living in tribes, in egalitarian societies. 300,000 years of that. And now you got neo-pharaohs. Now you got pyramids all over the place. Yet your legacy is going to be, what? Just cigarette butts, concrete, and plastic. It's not needed. You don't, to have a good life, you don't need to build pyramids, you don't need to have pharaohs. Totally unnecessary. You can be a human being in the universe without waging war against the planet from which you come. It's a futile war. You're not going to win it. Any solution you have for peace, for peaceful technology, peaceful programs, while the war rages on, makes no sense. It's not going to happen. Doomsday's just telling you. There's no such thing as prophecy, but there is probability. Okay? You got Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z. Look, Gen Z, they are bravely complaining about stone dragging. Applaud them for that. Applaud them for that. That's the beginning. Well, it started before Gen Z. The movement started before. The revolution is happening right now. 1 million people ready to abandon civilized culture. You think Gen Z's happy with it? What about Gen Alpha? You think Gen Alpha is going to be any more into stone dragging and pyramid building? You think they're going to be any more into that than Gen Z? What about Gen Beta? You think they're going to want this action? You think they're going to want Putin's and Kim Jong-un's and Xi Jinping's and Trump's and Biden's? Look, I'll even give you, okay, let's just suppose Biden's not corrupt. Let's say he's what he might be on the surface to a lot of people. He's just this nice old man, really does believe in public service. So what? So what? It's just more of the status quo. There's no green economy. The economy is for pharaohs. It's for pyramid building. Here's one thing. Like Doomsy talked to his dad who doesn't get it. Here's the thing. Here's one thing you just remind people when they say, it's a hoax. Electric vehicles, it's a hoax. They're doing it's a money grab. I agreed with him. Yeah, it's a money grab. It's a money grab. For sure. But hey, just because there's some people trying to make an extra buck selling fire extinguishers on the street corner while there's an apartment building ablaze, smoke billowing kilometer up into the sky, just because those people are making a buck on fire extinguishers that ain't gonna do diddly squat to that huge fire. Just because they're trying to make a buck on these fire extinguishers, that doesn't mean the building's not on fire. Their solution's useless, but hey, the building's still on fire. We should talk about that. We should talk about abandoning this thing. There ain't no putting it out at this point. The whole thing's ablaze. First, let's get people out of there. Oh, no, we shouldn't. Don't pay attention to that burning building there, because those people, they're trying to make a quick buck. Selling fire extinguishers. They're selling buckets of water. It's a money grab. So therefore the building's not on fire. But doesn't make any sense. That's all Doomsy's got right now. Questions, comments, send us a voice message. www.doomsymcdoomscroller.com. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow.